Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We're going to start in a few seconds.
I am now ready.
All right, let's do it. Hey everybody, it is July 6th, 2022 on a Wednesday evening. Thanks for joining us here. Um, Always glad to see some familiar faces, especially with what's going on with the market. Seems like a lot of people have lost uh, their love for crypto, but that usually does happen when this goes on. There are so many people that were so active during the when the market was green and pumping, and now I don't even see them. They're not even checking in. They haven't wrote anything. They haven't said anything. But yeah, that's to be expected. People. That seems like that's what happens anytime crypto gets like this. What's going on, Timeless?
Not a whole lot of anything. Just sitting over here trying to get my life back together.
Yeah, it's a lot going on, huh?
There is a lot, and haven't been feeling 100% the last few days. So just trying to wing it through life right now because ain't no reason to complain about it or sit back and let it take hold. You fight it and you keep moving ahead.
Right. That's all you can do, actually. Um, Seems like there's a lot of that's happened in the past week when it comes to some of these cryptocurrency lenders and exchanges. Um, I'm not really surprised about some of them, but there is a few. And I was actually checking out some news earlier today, and I found out that Nexo plans to buy fellow lender Valud. Valud is based in Singapore, and on Monday it had suspended its withdrawals for more than 800,000 of its customers. That kind of seems like the norm. What's going on, with withdrawals are suspended because of this or for that reason. And the CEO of them, Valud, said in a blog post that it was facing financial challenges due to the volatile market conditions and the financial difficulties of their business. So um, they had a significant amount of custom withdrawals in excess of 179 $197 million since June the 12th. So I guess that is why they actually had to pause the withdrawals on this past Monday. Uh, and Nexo said in a statement that they were actually interested in buying it. That's the thing about what's going on, with this right now. There's going to be a lot of cryptocurrency companies that are going to take advantage of this time and buy. A lot of other exchanges or lenders. Um, I also heard about Voyager. I'm not surprised about Voyager though, because Voyager, they've been having, I don't know, they've always had some kind of weird or practices, or I haven't really heard too many good things from their from the users that actually do use their exchange.
Not at all. And then, but the thing is like they've been in chronological order. So typically you would see the founder and CEO step down first, and then the organization, business, however they have themselves classified, then would take the opportunity to file for bankruptcy. But what we've seen this time with Voyager, they filed for a Chapter 11 um, bankruptcy, and then I believe it less than 24 hours later than the founder and CEO stepped down, and they said now we're looking for our next leader. The issue that I have with that is it's not just the CEO, that is also CEO and founder. So what was there anything set up in place for that? I mean, we already know these different types of bankruptcies, and I think we were planning on trying to go over the different chapter bankruptcies. And if you guys missed the Friday Crypto Underground, Oculus and I co-hosted, and we did talk a little bit about Chapter 15. Those are recorded if you guys want to catch up on that. There was a lot of useful information and a lot of news. And since Friday to now Wednesday, now we get to fill in even more blanks of where we left off that night. So I that's the only issue that I'm currently right now is through this bankruptcy proceeding and he steps down, how does that affect the process? Because typically it is that CEO and founder that create those proceedings and run through it.
Yeah, and I think these bankruptcy chapters are very interesting. Chapter 11 actually provides for reorganization, usually involving a corporation or a partnership. And Chapter 11, a debtor usually proposes a plan of reorganization to keep its business alive and pay creditors over time. So you can actually, from the ashes, when you actually do a Chapter 11, a lot of businessmen have actually filed for bankruptcy. Trump is one of them.
Right. I was going to say, I
Yep.
believe the biggest one I know is Trump, and he's done that, I think, 3 or 4 times, and he's
Yeah.
been able to come back each time.
Yeah, chapter 11 kind of like it protects you a little bit because they can't take too much from you. What you have to do, I guess, is like I said before, it's like reorganization. I guess aligning things differently. But yeah, so I don't know if this is actually going to be the end of Voyager, but it's actually going to be interesting to see what they do with this chapter 11 bankruptcy, and if people can actually I don't know if people are had their withdrawals paused, but hopefully people who had money on that exchange will be able to get it off eventually.
Ooh, who knows? Because we still don't see the protection from the investor like we at Oculus and I talked a little bit further on after Friday, because when we were talking about the chapter 15 with Wolf, we were explaining how that's a new chapter bankruptcy that's newer in the grand scheme of all of the things. And while it does not protect the investor, so they are getting liquidated in the British Virgin Islands, but yet they're protected for their US assets. So essentially, what we were looking at and reading into was they so it's not protecting the investor, but it's in protecting their investments in the US. So almost like an LLC. These people cannot nobody can come while they're being liquidated and take homes or cars or any personal assets. So now they've protected their back end here in the US for whatever investments they had personally while it's shitting on the investor. So, yeah, I think that's also going to be interesting as we're seeing these exchanges halting transactions, and most of them were just halting withdrawals, swaps, or those things, but we're still allowing deposits while, why am I drawing a blank? Probably because of the thunder. While I'm trying to remember the name. I'll come back to it. But what also halted the deposits last week. So I need to look up that name because I don't want to leave that open ended. But let me look.
Yeah, I got a feeling this is going to be happening to a lot of these exchanges. Even the ones that we actually aren't familiar with. It's going to be a lot of pausing and withdrawals of that sort. I also was digging into just looking at some articles, and I was checking out what the compound founder was saying about crypto bailouts. He's actually not a fan of crypto bailouts. He actually was saying that DeFi protocols don't need to get bailed out, and they were actually designed to specifically avoid this bullshit. That's exactly what he said, and he actually was discussing the troubles faced by centralized crypto lenders like Celsius, Voyager Digital, and BlockFi. He said that these companies are all in trouble because of the way they are operating. He said that they're opaque, they're run based on whims of people who aren't very good managers. They don't do any leverage of the inherent technological advances of crypto itself to run their businesses. So it seems like he has the feeling that a lot of these businesses are kind of run the same exact way he said as Wall Street was running himself in 2007. And if you are young enough or old enough rather, you should also remember the financial crisis of 2008. So it was very interesting that he said that because we still don't have any concrete news on what is going to happen with Celsius or if people are going to be able to get their money off. But hopefully, I mean, for anybody who has anything on there, I hope they can. Let's see. Also, the euro falls to a 20-year low against the dollar.
The one thing, do I sound all right? Because we just had a storm start in here, so I want to make sure my
Yeah, you.
connection
Yeah, you.
sounds all right.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. Then the other thing I've been trying to look at when we bring up Celsius is the fact that I was trying to look if we're dealing with insolvencies, where the hell is this money coming from where they're paying off their leverage loans? And while I what I've been running back to, I feel like the only way they could be receiving these kind of funds as similar to a bailout to keep lowering their liquidation price. The only thing I can think of is it's Sam Bankman-Fried is loaning or giving or helping them bail out, because I cannot put my finger on anywhere else where this potentially could come from. I found all the transactions when they paid it on the scanner, and so I mean we're blockchain, so we can find all of that, but finding where it came from is another story. So I'm interested in watching the Celsius thing, not just entirely because my Matic is locked up on that thing, but just because I find it interesting that we're dealing with the insolvency, but yet these funds, a massive amount of funds, these aren't just small amounts of funds. I think it was 4th of July. I was on and off the internet on the 4th of July. And so I believe it was, they made two different payments. So one of them was a liquidation price of down to like 18 or 17,000. And then they did another one later on in the evening that brought them down to, I want to say 5,000. And now currently, I think it's 2,900 as a liquidation price for Bitcoin. So I think that that's really interesting when you're just looking at facts, numbers, and what's been going on since they were pretty much some of the first ones to halt transactions as an exchange.
Yeah, I'm actually keeping my eye close on what's going on with Celsius. I don't have anything on there, but just looking for some more news as to what they're going to do, because it seems like it's a domino effect now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And you mentioned Sam Bankman-Fried there. I don't know how true this is. We have to fact check the news, even if it's from a quote unquote reputable source. Sam Bankman-Fried says that the exchange has over 2 billion they could use in crypto industry deals if needed. So I guess not everybody's going broke. So it's going to be interesting to see what FTX Bankman-Fried is going to do. When it comes to what's going on with these exchanges and lenders.
For sure. And I feel like they're kind of using it as an excuse right now. Oh, well, I do know, and we are seeing the legitimacy of some of the insolvencies, which means as an organization and as a business, fund management has not been amazing, obviously. But at the end of the day, I feel like just like how we were hearing, like exploits were becoming a buzzword in all of that. Now is insolvencies. I know that we've all talked about some of these exchanges won't be here long term due to management and all of that. But some of these bigger names we expected to be here. I mean, I'm even hearing stories of Coinbase asking so many questions about wallets that you're trying to send funds to now that people are kind of backing away from that being their on and off ramp. And because now it's getting very convoluted with the things that they're wanting. It's especially so to me it seems like they're trying to, how I used to say, hey, if this is my DeFi wallet, prove it's me type of thing. Um, I think Coinbase is helping the IRS and the federal government prove it's you now. So there's that, and then it's probably been what, 2 months now when they added that clause in there with the updated terms and conditions stating that in case of a bankruptcy, these funds, if they're on our exchange, are essentially not yours. I mean, there was a big write-up, we talked about it then. We can bring it back up and look at it word for word if anybody needs to, but we're starting to see this more and more so now, where you're now having the questions and asking, and why are you sending it there? How are you sending it there, from some of the bigger names? So it's getting very questionable about different options that we may have as on and off ramps coming.
It's yeah. I've always felt that Coinbase was playing nice with the IRS. I just always felt that about them for some reason. So they may not have give them all information about their users, but I do think maybe other things that they're sharing with the IRS. But for people like me, that's really the only place I can use as an off ramp. So I'm kind of like stuck in the middle. I if I any money that I do make, I usually transfer it there if I want to turn it into fiat, because I know a lot of people are big on the cards and get your little points, or you get your little crypto when you swipe the card. But I have plans, so I actually and what I'm trying to do, I actually do need to show that I have a certain amount of good old cash. Don't nobody they're not going to care if I just actually put $50,000 in my account one day. They're gonna want to know where that money comes from. And if I say cryptocurrency, that's kind of gonna, that's not gonna, that's not, it's not as acceptable as people think. So that's why I always say, when it comes to me, I'm a different kind of person who cashes out. I don't really put too much money on those cards and everything. It's actually, I don't trust those cards from these exchanges. I really don't. I don't at all.
Right. I mean, we already seen one card get shut down, halted, and then the date. Wolf is up here. He requested, so he might be able to um, confirm the date when the XRP, well, all the everything associated with Uphold was halted card wise. So yeah, we're just seeing more and more. Is yes, it might be a Visa debit card, and it's not a credit card; it's a debit card. As okay, there was some backing behind it, but when you start seeing this turbulence within the market, then they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that. We don't want anything to do with it.
Right, right. Go ahead, Wolf, because you came on us, and then we can go to Chris.
Yeah, what's up, ladies?
Hey,
Happy
What's
hey.
up,
Wednesday.
Wolf?
Thanks for letting me come up as usual. So yeah, I mean, I think it was the global ID stuff. Not sure. I mean, I know
That's
it
what
had
it
to
was.
do. Yeah, it was the global ID, and it was the XRP debit Mastercard. Um, because global ID is in the middle of restructuring their card programs to make it more, um, how do you say? Better for their vision, I guess. I'm sure there was some issues going on, which obviously caused them to do that so abruptly. But at least they did give an advance notice, so I commend them for that. As far as Coinbase goes, the only thing they require now um, is two-factor authentication for pretty much every withdrawal from the website. Um, from what I've seen, even as little as $14, at least my end. But they're not asking right now currently, like who is it and things like that. Like if you lived in Canada, it's a different story. They have a new law that requires them as of a couple months ago. Same thing with a couple other countries over towards Europe, in Eastern Europe. They have new regulations where, you know, basically you have to have the KYC, the person's name, the address, those type of things whenever you withdraw anything over $1,000. Um, so those are happening, not in the U.S. yet, but I mean, if we all remember, Coinbase did develop a IRS tracking tool that sold to the government like a year ago, that they created
And it's
so
called
that way they could
Tracker.
track it. Yeah, so they could track stuff. I mean, there's other companies out there like CyberTrace as well, which was, before Coinbase, they had developed a blockchain tool that you could pretty much track somebody down all the way down to their KYC account and stuff like that. So there's already these tools in place, and the government has, blockchain development teams, and they're using third parties like Cellbrite and things like that to develop these certain tools to track things. But obviously, if you're reporting your taxes and stuff, I mean, they're going to see that stuff, um, especially you're on an on-ramp, say like Coinbase, right? If you're somebody who uses that, they're going to see what wallets you interact with, and they could search through those because I'm sure at one point in time, everybody funds their on and off ramp, and then they can track that where you fund to another exchange or a DeFi wallet or whatever, because you're going to send funds somewhere to buy other crypto if you're not just using that exchange. So just something to think about. But I'm sure in the future, with future regulations, unfortunately, they probably will require something like that. And they could probably use the recent events that happened in crypto where like we went from a $3 trillion market down to almost 900 billion. So they'll definitely use that against us. But it's still a big win. We're here before the regulations. So.
Yeah, that's a big issue with that. And so they could dig through those wallets, but like I have different wallets within, so my MetaMask, I have different ones. And yes, if you want to dig through it and see where things are going, well, you can't prove that all those are mine because some of those I'm sending, just for an example, to Oculus or to Cap or to just different people that I interact with, my husband or my son or anywhere. So they can speculate that those are my wallets, but you can't actually prove it until some of these regulations come in, which I'm pretty sure they're coming, but at that point it would be speculation.
Yeah. And I think that'll only make DeFi accelerate as far as tech. Like I'm trying to think of the right verbiage, but I'll just say like technology wise, I think it'll accelerate the next catalyst for its growth when regulations are on the doorstep or coming, because people don't want to be tracked. The whole point of crypto is to break free from the traditional market system. So, in the decentralized nature of it. So, it'll be definitely interesting to pay attention to see if that even happens. And also, if they're going to try to make these things like MetaMask, um, who has connections to, what is it, Consensus? I don't know, one of the companies there that Joseph Lubin, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had seen some type of like action where they try to make like MetaMask KYC your account and stuff like that. Um, so just keep your eyes out for shit like that.
I wish they would, but you're right. I know you're right, but I wish they would at this point.
MetaMask asking for KYC. That's hilarious. Wow. Yeah, but you know what? You're right, Wolf. I wouldn't be surprised actually if that happens. Um, so we do have to just keep our eyes peeled for things of that sort. That's why I like to even though the market is not very very good and not favorable to a lot of people, this is the time people really need to be paying attention. I'm looking at the people who haven't logged on since May. How are they actually keeping abreast of this kind of news and things of that sort? But that's why I appreciate you guys for being here because that means that you're I call them the crypto survivalists. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? I said I would devote, at least a half hour to this. It's been busy, but I wanted to make sure to support you guys because you guys always help me out. So, how are you guys doing?
Doing
Doing all right.
okay.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah, just relaxing, taking it easy. Right now, at least, not in general. I guess since we're on the topic of regulations, my question is like if you have like big companies like PayPal and like all these, chains that just announced that they're going to use like Bitcoin and stuff like that, like or allow them in their store, like don't these people, regardless of regulations or companies, have like lawyers that look into this stuff and say like, hey, like this is good to go, like like we can use this, like that we don't have to worry about regulatory clarity, or otherwise else it can affect their business.
It can, but that is also why you're seeing that some of their boards and their lawyers on some of these bigger companies, and even associated with traditional baking, is now backed away and saying now you can have 1% of the assets in actual crypto. So you're seeing more. I think at one point it was at 10% where they were giving an okay for a 10%. But then while now this market downturn and everything going on, you're seeing them back away from that 10% back to a 1%. And when you really look at 1%, that's not a lot. I mean, it is a lot when you look at the company and what they're able to hold, their evaluation, and all of that. But in the grand scheme of things, 1% is really nothing. So that's kind of where it's going to. And you take, so things, I'm not necessarily sure with PayPal because Wolf had told me, well, told all of us the other day about now it looks like you may be able to take those assets off of PayPal and put it in a wallet. But before it used to be like Robinhood. So where now Robinhood, you can take some off and put them in external wallets. But it used to be where you were buying and you were holding it on their platform. So they still had complete ownership of it. So that is why you're seeing some of these insolvencies through certain exchanges, is because they use that, and since they own it, they're
Uh,
leveraging it and doing loans. So that's that balance, that's that balancing act that they're doing.
Gotcha. So they were getting into things that they weren't even sure. They were investing, but they weren't, and hoping that people would give them that, but they weren't even sure if there was even clarity, to get the go ahead and say like this stuff's going to be legit or you're, deemed not a security or whatnot. And they
Well,
were
you
holding
also
it.
have to look, not to cut you off, but just to interject right in there, is you have to look at other countries are making Bitcoin a legal currency or a legal tender in their countries. So while we have the SEC and we have all these things floating around of securities and things like that, not all countries around the world are you seeing it in those instances. Like you're seeing developing countries using it as a legal currency as a way of exchanging money from hands to hands in wallets. So here we look at it a certain way, but worldwide you're looking at it slightly off that same scale.
Gotcha. And so, because like for me, like when you hear like, hey, well, if we can't get clarity here, and a lot of these companies, not all of them are American based, but like they say, oh, the price is going to shoot up. Well, we'll just use XRP as an example, because I mean, I think the same thing, would happen once all this regular, clarity stuff passes with stellar lumens. I just hate using XRP as every example, but everyone's like the price is going to shoot up when they get clarity. Well, if they don't get clarity here and then they move to China and they have clarity there, then what's the difference?
It's different entities within their economy and their federal, well, their governments, however they lay it out. The difference is where you're based, what, so okay, where you're based and what they have a basis on. The SEC here, I mean we look at the EU in a whole because they're being pretty stringent also. But you also
Right.
have, when you're looking at how those governments are set up and how they're using it and leveraging it, is really, and there's going to be a lot of those nuances behind the scenes, and for you to truly understand it, it's going to take each individual to truly like dig in and research their governments and how they look at currencies and money, because money is not currency and currency is not money. That, and then how a valuation is put on different things also.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thanks for the input. It sounds crazy. You would think that like it's just universal all throughout the world.
No, in our lifetime, we've seen a lot of things universal because the world reserve currency has been the US dollar. But as we're watching things move along, we're seeing conflicts in different countries. We're seeing other countries bind together for like Brexit and then the NAFTA and all of that. So you're seeing a different restructuring and you're seeing allegiances and alliances being built that weren't typically there. So while you're seeing right now money's coming out of crypto, but while money's coming out of crypto, people are falling back on their fiat. So the strength of the US dollar right now is going up slightly, but the US dollar is in trouble right now worldwide. So while you have China going to other countries, building up their economy, they're building up their yuan, and now they got their digital yuan. So they are becoming, if they keep on track the way that they're doing, leasing out lands in other countries, and they are bailing other countries out and giving loans, hoping that these people will, or these countries will forfeit, we're seeing a strength being built up in China that could pass the next world reserve currency to China as the yuan. So as you're seeing this, it's almost like an earthquake with the tectonic plates. You're seeing that friction and it's going and it's building pressure. So there isn't going to be a universal worldwide right now because there's a lot of geopolitical and geo-regional things going on that are inflicting different obstacles within currencies around the world.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
no problem. Wolf, did you want to add on to that? Chris, were you done? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, honey. Okay, go ahead, but go ahead, Wolf, you go ahead, add on to that.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, when I take a look at everything that's gone down, I'm going to touch on a couple of things real fast. These exchanges that basically went insolvent, basically ran into trouble, we're treating it like a traditional banking system. They were leveraging people's money. So because technically when your crypto's on these exchanges, it's not really yours, right? But they were treating it as the traditional market, and we know from the traditional market it's built on debt. So, it just makes sense. And that's why we're seeing bad, and it's just bad money management. So that's why we're seeing the ones, get exposed, and then you have people, bailouts coming, which isn't a bad thing. But the other thing too is like, I mean, the dollar basically lost world dominance. I think starting on what year was that? 1984 or something like that, or the Nixon era. Sorry, in my opinion, that's when it started losing its real value. But more recently, after during the pandemic and stuff, because you had China, start the digital yuan program, and things like that. But they're a major superpower. I mean, people might not want to say it, but they are. I mean, I would say more so than the U.S. Regardless, if you don't count the military, you know, sure, because our defense budget is like 890 whatever $1 million, some astronomical bullshit number, whatever. But they export so much to the rest of the fucking world that I would imagine that the U.S. is pretty dependent on them, and other countries are as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I read that somewhere as well. And the same thing goes with the energy crisis in Europe, where Russia supplies a main line to Europe, specifically Germany. So there's just a lot of factors, but I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but like China's really well positioned for their digital, currency, and so isn't Russia. But obviously, we're not being told that because, good old news, you can't trust it all the time. So you just got to be careful. But, there's a lot of countries with debts from China. So just pay attention to it, do the research on it, and you'll see. It's pretty shocking. But, yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
We keep talking about the dollar and how weak it is. I was saying earlier that the euro has been going down, and it's reached a new low for the first time against the dollar in 20 years. So, and it's interesting to see that that's going on with the euro, and there's also been a huge surge in European gas prices. And I've been reading that for like the past 2 days, a few investment managers and things of that sort were saying that the euro could fall to 90 cents against the dollar if Russia cuts off oils from Europe. So it seems like because for a long time, as long as I can remember, the euro was always worth more than the American dollar. But now it seems like it's going to be actually they're saying if the right recipe happens, it will be worth just as much as the dollar or a little lower, which is probably going to be pretty shocking. But that's going to be interesting to see if that actually happens.
It will. I was in Germany when the euro was introduced, and it was pretty much 1 to 1 at that point when they transitioned from Dutch mark to the euro, which, I mean, that was shocking being in Germany because if I could speak, the Dutch marks, when you could use those, it you had more leverage. Like the same way when I'm moving out of the country, looking at some lower cost of living places for our slow travel, it's to commit like personal arbitrage within different currencies in these different countries. So committing the arbitrage in being able to use the value of my US dollar to my advantage someplace else. While we did see that increase of the euro over the dollar, but now with all that Russia thing, like you were just talking about, Oculus, it's coming to an all-time low, which is extremely interesting because it's always been stronger. And but then you're also seeing alliances being built, just like I now personally, my family and I will not be going to Venezuela anytime soon, only due to the fact that now they're essentially teaming up with Russia. Russia's sending them weapons and stuff like that. So now you're going to get this type of friction, and especially with their gangs and everything down there, it's not worth the arbitrage on my US dollar to go there when it's so just turbulent. So, but then you also have, when you go down to Argentina, their um, their ministry, the economic economy, yeah, the economic minister had stepped down. So now you're seeing, and they were one of the lowest cost of Latin American countries where you could leverage your US dollar. So now you have the people from the country like not sure what to do, and they're running to USDT. They're not even going to USDC. And so there is a huge shift of them trying to believe in stable coins within the cryptocurrency space. And so I think while there's a lot of juggling going on worldwide, and we're seeing that these currencies are coming up and down, but while everybody wanted to put all these sanctions on Russia, I and if you like them or you don't, this isn't about who's right or wrong with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. The basis of what I'm saying is Russia has provided energy and petrol around the world. And so when you start putting sanctions on a country and you're not truly looking as an economist for a country of how much do we depend, and then trying to go into places like Venezuela, like the US, try to create a full-on coup down there to take over with these sanctions, and hey, let us like screw you over with this oil and all of that. So all different corners of the globe right now, we're dealing with the ups and the downs and currencies in some of these countries without help of a bigger country. And I feel like China is going to swoop in on some of these for sure, because they can create the strength within their currency, and maybe not all the way up, because of course they don't want to boost them all the way up, but you're going to see countries that necessarily could have failed on their own and be assumed by somebody on their border are going to get helped by China and try to build up their currencies as another way of having more power across the globe.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see how all of this is going to play out. That's for sure. Um, that's why I'm also keeping my eyes on the world news and the financial market, because it all goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do here. Go ahead, Wolf.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you know, sorry if I'm sounding ignorant when I ask this question, but um, isn't Venezuela a communist country? So,
Yes, yes and no.
so
They have the two, and that they were kind of fighting against each other. So they're kind of in the middle, but mostly communist.
okay, so it doesn't shock me too much then that Russia is supplying arms, you know, in a sense, you know. But I did. So it kind of makes sense, right? So you have Venezuela, North Korea, China, and somewhere I believe in Africa, and then you know, and then Russia itself, you know, as the last remaining communist, countries around the world. Um, but yeah, I just wasn't sure. I thought I was right on that, but I just, so it didn't shock me, if they are. So
Yeah, and that's why the U.S. tried to go down there and create a coup. If I could speak today, that would be great. Over and try to overthrow the president there, and that's why, and then they try to sanction them and try to go in there and make them, like, force their hand. Hey, you are going to give us this oil for this amount at this amount of volume. And so I think that that's another reason why Russia has came in, like, hold on, they have other options. And because as much as we're all, well, not, I don't know if all of us, most of us in here right now are U.S. citizens, and we have a type of patriotic. It doesn't always mean based on military, and I think that's where people get it conflicted with being patriotic. Is not just military; it is being about your country, and most people are about their countries. But we, as a nation, are bullies to a lot of these littler countries, and we try to push our weight around. And while our dollar is kind of falling globally, we don't have as much weight, even though we do have a lot of weight. We do. I'm not saying that, oh, now we're weak. No, I'm not saying that. We still have a lot of weight behind us. We still have a strong military. But some of these ways that we were bullying and pushing in the playground, some of these nations and countries are going to push back a little bit more, because there is so much upheaval going on.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, don't we run into Venezuela too quick, sis? They got a lot of issues over there. You go over there, you might not be able to leave. I know
Oh
people
no,
who.
it's off the list now. Todd and I, well, my husband and I were just talking about it earlier, saying it's definitely off the list. It's not safe.
No.
We may think about it if it was just us, but we are taking our kids at this point. As much as we would want to see that country, it's not safe, and we need to be smart about our movements.
Yeah. It is. It's actually no surprise that Russia is playing nice with Venezuela, because they are they do have a communist party in Venezuela. And like I was saying in a few of our shows ago, Venezuela still has huge oil reserves that actually, before Hugo Chavez died and the barrel went down to $20, it was their oil just kind of sat there because there wasn't a need for it. So now that there is a need for it, it's very strategic of Russia to be, being chummy with Venezuela, since they know that a lot of Europe and a lot of the world still runs on petrol. So we shall see.
And there is rumors that Venezuela may be joining Brexit with Russia and a few other new newcomers. I didn't have the chance to really read into that because before I like to speak too strongly on these developing things, especially with my background, I like to really double check, triple check, quadruple check, because you do have a lot of things that are just thrown out there, and then you have things that are true, and you just need to fish through the adding words into people's mouths or agreements and really get down to the nitty gritty of what's real and what's not.
Right. Just switching gears a little bit. I also was just doing some browsing around on the internet, and I saw that Gate.io announced their second audit after being the first exchange to provide proof of reserves. Now that's pretty darn good. Um, the I've heard some pretty good things about Gate.io. I can't actually use them in my area. I tried, but I can't. Um, and Gate.io is actually the first cryptocurrency exchange in the world to commit to providing 100% collateral. So, and they're working very, very closely with the Armanino LLP, which is a big audit firm. So, I'm actually interested to see about this audit if I can get a copy of it. I actually do want to look at it, and the transparency that Gate.io is doing right now is pretty cool. But let's just see if anything actually comes of it. Hey, Wolf, go ahead.
Yeah, so on Gate.io, I actually posted about the most recent update on March 12th. Hold on one second. Not sure if my mic's connected. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sure can.
Okay, all right. Sorry, it said disconnected for a second. Sorry, they had posted or emailed users, and I'll read it to you right here because I posted it on March 12th, like I said. And this was their thing. So I used to use Gate.io, using the VPN and all that workaround and whatnot. Um, But it read this: citizens and residents of the U.S., Canada, Malaysia, Singapore, Malta, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, etc. Citizens and Hong Kong, China, UK, retail users only, um, are only allowed to interact with certain margin training and not future contracts and whitelisted cryptos. But they basically restricted a bunch of stuff due to regulations and local stuff that was going on. And actually, when you went to go sign up for a new account, it would actually pop up saying citizens and residents of the United States, Ontario, Quebec of Canada, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, all the same list, are not supported. And the last I knew, it still said all that. So, and that was back in February. And then since then, it's still been the same. So I'm not sure if you use it or not, or if anybody else uses it who lives in the U.S., because I'd be keen to know.
I tried and I could not use it a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those. I did have an account. I bought MTV on there last year, but
Right.
and I used the VPN, of course, to get it because
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. But I wasn't trusting it, so I just took everything off of there. But I
Yeah.
did try to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was as of this year. Um, so definitely some updates that came out of there. But that is interesting to know, though, as well, um, what you had said. So, but I just wanted to let that be known as well.
And while we were talking about exchanges and stuff, so South Korea and the U.S. had agreed to share the investigation on Terra Luna. So both countries wanted to do the investigation, but instead of them doing it independently, they have now joined forces to do the investigation with one another and share the information. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that we've had working relationships, because we still have a lot of military stationed there also. So they are now working hand in hand for Terra Luna. So, Duquan, I don't know where you are, buddy, but I don't think that this is going to wrap up very well for you.
Yeah, it says that they actually are going to Korea and the U.S. are going to actually share their data on the Terra Luna collapse. So they've actually discussed ways to exchange information and strengthen cooperation to actually get a timely resolution to this or what they're going to do to it. Um, and of course, we know a lot of people actually lost a lot of money, in the Terra Luna crash. Wow, $40 billion Terra ecosystem crash. Wow, that's a lot of money. So I think it's pretty cool that the United States and Korea are working together. They have I know the Securities and Commodity Task Force. They have like a task force set together. We have the United States Attorney's Office involved in this, and we have the Southern District of New York actually involved in this case also, which doesn't surprise me. So this is going to be interesting. It's probably going to take a while to get through this and see what they're actually going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if Do Kwon actually served some kind of jail time.
Oh, I think it's going to be. It's going to be very interesting. I do think he probably will spend some jail time. But the other thing that I'm curious of seeing is the different judicial branches in different countries and coming for him. So if the U.S. and South Korea find all the information and come after him, then how will they decide who will hold him accountable? Because you have two different regulatory and judicial branches within the two countries. So, and I'm trying to remember where he was a citizen of, because I do believe he was set up.
Singapore.
Okay,
Singapore, I think so. Yeah.
that sounds familiar. But yeah, and based on where the company was and all of this, I think he dug himself one of the deepest holes, and he leveraged it in all the wrong ways. And they're also saying that he says, oh, it's not true, but they are saying that he also had sold off a crazy amount of Bitcoin right before the crash, also.
Yeah, he did actually. That's what I was looking at not too long ago. That there was a lot of weird transactions going on over there actually before the collapse. So this is I think this is actually a good thing, and maybe not such a good thing. But I'm not surprised that the U.S. and Korea decided to work together on this. Because people in the USA lost money, people in Korea lost money, people in a lot of countries who invested in the Terra ecosystem lost money.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, people lost so much money that people were killing themselves, like committing suicide over it. So it's it's extremely sad, and that's why every week we bring up at some point in time during our show, no matter what you lost, or you're feeling down about the market, or you over leverage your own selves, just reach out to somebody. Don't allow it to take you completely down. Don't let it just diminish your mental health. Reach out to somebody, and and for us that aren't feeling that way, reach out to people that you haven't heard from and make sure that they're doing okay. It's when you build a community, you look out for one another, because that Oculus and I have been in spaces and heard the defeat in people's voices, and the crazy amount of life savings that they had put into this and that they had lost, and just were at a loss for words. But you definitely heard it in their voice. It wasn't just, oh, let me try to just tell a story that wasn't real, when you can hear that pain in their voice.
Oh yeah. Oh man. A few of those spaces were kind of sad. Oh, the dejection in these people's voices and about the money that they've lost and how they'll never ever get it back. But we shall see what's going to happen.
For sure.
If anybody down there wants to, come up to the mic and speak, you can, of course. As most of you know, it's an open forum. We like people to come up and talk to us. But if you don't want to actually talk to us, we're okay with just talking to each other.
Yep, because we'll talk. But while we're waiting to see if somebody wants to come up, another big thing that was going on was Bitstamp yesterday said that they were going to charge a fee for inactive accounts. And then within 24 hours, they doubled around and was like, oh, we were just playing. I think they got so much backlash from just the thought and going to institute that fee that they within 20 it was less than 24 hours they came back and was like, oh, we were just playing, we're not going to charge that fee now. So the more and more we're seeing these, we're going to see these places try to find ways of getting money grabs, especially when the market is down. But I thought that was extremely interesting, and I've only seen a couple people talk about it. I know I seen Wolf a few hours ago had posted about it too, but very few people, even if you're not using the platform, it's good to stay abreast of the information that's going on, because if one platform wants and even thought it was a good idea, expect that to come around with more platforms. But if it's a platform that you are associated with and you start hearing this chatter, use Twitter as your platform and share how you feel about certain things. Just don't take it, because when you get too much backlash, some of these companies will back away from that line and like, oh, we were just playing.
I think they were actually. I think they were serious. I think they just did that to see exactly what kind of response something like that being said would foster. So I don't put anything past these exchanges, because just like you said,
Oh,
they're
they
all,
were real.
yeah, I know, and they're all kind of like grabbing at straws here, trying to figure out how to keep themselves afloat. Because just like Wolf said earlier, a lot of these exchanges do run themselves like banks, and we all know there have been bank panics and bank crashes. I was reading about the bank panic of 1907, and basically, when I did did my research on it, the reason why that panic happened, in October of 1907 for about 6 weeks, is because of poor money management and rogue investments and things of that sort. After doing research on it, so I don't understand why these crypto exchanges are actually running themselves like banks and using people's money that they're holding on these exchanges as leverage. That's exactly what's happening. That's why, because if you're not doing that, then there shouldn't be a problem. Hell, if people want to withdraw $200 million since June 12th, that really shouldn't hurt you if you're not actually, running your company like that. What's up, Wolf?
No, I was just gonna say, like, um, I mean, these exchanges are centralized, right? So, I mean, it's not too shocking to see them operating the way they are. They're just, instead of, you storing, say, cash, right? I mean, you can store cash in the form of, a crypto asset called USDC or UST, right? So if you think of it in that sense, I mean, it almost is like a central bank. And when there's panic, right, like back then, or even during, like, let's say the Great Depression, things like that, people do what? They withdraw cash or fiat out of the bank, and then the banks have to shut down. And we see this globally even today in the current market. Where, unfortunately, in third world countries more so, you having the banks just shut the doors down from their own citizens, going into the bank and withdrawing money. You specifically saw this, not to bring it back up, sorry, but citizens in Russia were worried, so they went to the bank and they had a limit of what they could take out. So there's all these things. So it's not too shocking, but it is unfortunate. You'd think they would learn, but history tends to repeat itself if the past people don't inform themselves all too well. or think that the traditional market can work in this new market because it's so new. I wouldn't be. It's not going to be the first time we're going to see it. I'm sure we'll see it again in the future after a next bull run. Like, I mean, you're always going to have bad apples in the market that don't know how to manage money or over leverage themselves elsewhere. And you see these venture capitalist companies, more specifically that were just kind of just doing whatever. So, yeah.
I think it's just shocking to me that they're running themselves as a bank, because even though they may do the same things that a bank does, at the end of the day, they're not a bank. You know what I'm saying? They're not a bank. I mean, if you're actually
Yeah.
like if you're leveraging, running your company on, cryptocurrency, which is still volatile, even though the dollar is not that strong, but I mean, compared to how crypto drops and things of that sort, and you compare it to like the dollar or any kind of like fiat, it's just a little different. So I feel that they need to be a little bit more, I think, responsible. And also in the United States, our banks are FDIC insured. So, cryptocurrency exchanges aren't because you can't FDIC insure crypto. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's the
I
only
think
reason why I'm
Kraken.
looking at it, at it like that.
Yeah, I think the Kraken is the first FDIC insured, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but are they FDIC insuring crypto, or are they insuring USDC? Because that's the difference.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll dig on that.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people thought that Coinbase, because it's registered here and everything, that is FDIC insured, but actually the only thing that is insured with Coinbase is your USDC, not your AVAX, not anything else you're holding on there in the form of a cryptocurrency, because it's not regulated.
And they did the bylaw on that, though. That is FDIC insured, but only if it was truly compromised. You couldn't, it can't be on your side. Like, they're not going to cover that if you giving your wallet stuff to a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or you put your information into the wrong site. They want to prove that without a reasonable doubt that you had nothing to do with that being compromised on your end, that it was truly overtaken by a hack or something like that. They made that very clear, that because when I was looking into that, when me and you were having that discussion quite a while ago, and it keeps coming up, that then they updated the terms on that, and they gave examples in those terms, like, oh, if that's a girlfriend or a boyfriend or someone that that got access to your keys or into there and started moving it around or took it, that's not on us. So they got down to the very nitty gritty details on that one too.
I bet you they did. Oh yeah, we were having that discussion all last year, because a lot of people actually were thinking that you know everything was actually saved if Coinbase got hacked or whatever. But at the end of the day, I guess you don't really have to worry about the stuff if you don't keep your shit on exchanges, right? You know what
Dun dun.
I mean? But it's always good to know, because, like I said, some people do keep some stuff on the exchanges for various reasons. Short orders. Some people just keep a little bit on there, so when their favorite project drops to a certain point, they can just run and go get it. I understand. But I myself am not a fan of leaving anything on exchanges.
Right. And before, we all used to just say, hey, take it off the exchange, be safe. But what we're seeing right now in these last few weeks should really reinforce, like, it was a what if an exchange does this, or what would happen type of thing. Well, we're seeing it. So to double back and double down on, get it off the exchange, and if you're leaving something on the exchange, make sure it's within your risk tolerance, because nothing is safe on any of these exchanges right now, and we're seeing that. And I mean, Celsius. I hate to keep going back to Celsius. Celsius is a big company. They were expanding. They were doing a lot. They were opening headquarters in different cities across the U.S. and the world. They were having these huge get-togethers. They were doing a lot of things. And that is the reason I felt pretty confident in leaving that large amount of Matic on their platform. Because I honestly did not see this as being an option for Celsius. My bad. I know, and don't need the sympathy or nothing. I've expressed how upset I am, but I can only blame myself. So at the end of the day, while we're seeing these things happening and transpiring, get them off the exchange. And in most cases, it does not take that long to get something from self-custody back onto the exchange. And if you miss a price, I cannot think of a way you would miss a price so much by just that small window of time getting it from self-custody back to the exchange. If you're doing buy orders or things like that, I can see that, but just be very, very, very mindful how much you have on there. Always keep a pulse on it, and really put it in your own risk tolerance, and especially what's going on with the economy and the money situation, people getting laid off. All of these things, you have to look at your personal finances and what personally afflicts you, and then do a risk management tolerance on that, for yourself. And I know we say it, we might sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's always needed to be said, as especially when we're going through this stuff with the exchanges right now, just because that is the best way of keeping your best interests in mind. Hey, old man with the dog, what do you got?
Good evening, ladies, and hello to everyone down in the queue.
Hey, old
Hey.
man.
I'm going to throw a couple of questions out there, and would like to have your all's input on this. I guess maybe the first question is, how safe is Exodus and as a storage, and um, is it worthwhile to take, let's say, USDC and convert it back to money and move it back into your account, or say save the USDC on a platform like Exodus? Thank you.
I personally do not. I don't have a lot of experience with Exodus. Maybe Oculus does, but I'm trying to remember if Exodus was also the one where you couldn't keep updating, and there's could be a potential security risk. I'm going to look that up while we see what Oculus and then what Wolf has to say.
Yeah. When it comes to I actually old man with the dog. I cash out. I cash out back to good old fiat, and I put it right back in my my bank account. I know some people don't actually believe in that and don't do that, and some people are swayed by leaving it in the form of cryptocurrency because they could stake it and get this much in return. But just for me, just for like I always say, I have things that I plan on doing, and you know, um, when you're looking into finance or buying certain things and you want to take out lines of credit, you know, you can have $1 million in the bank today, but they're going to want to know how much you had in there last week. And if you had $50 in there last week, they're going to want to figure out, they want to know where you got that money from. So, and for me, If I make if I make a big splash in crypto and I make a lot of money, which I have, I'd rather actually just put it back into my bank account, because actually getting a low interest rate is actually in a traditional bank account is actually better than getting my $20,000 score I made taken off of some staking exchange. So that's what I do when it comes to that.
Right.
Yeah, Wolf, what did you have to add on the exits? Because you put your hand up.
Yeah, no, I personally still use it. I mean, that's what I use for my Trezor hardware wallet integration because a couple years back, they introduced the Trezor Bridge with Exodus, and I thought that was a pretty cool feature. So instead of using the Trezor Web Suite, which they've been working on developing because they're a little behind Ledger as far as looks and supporting specific cryptocurrencies through there. So with the Trezor Bridge, if you use the hardware wallet, in that application, it'll open up a different like portfolio tab, and you can manage specific